have a lot to talk about today. It's Romania Black, and we're on episode 21, or aka episode 46 of Chihayafuru. And yeah, we're in the individual tournaments. Chihaya has an injured finger. She's not letting that stop her. She's also facing Megumu's could-be girlfriend, who definitely wants revenge, so that matchup's crazy. Meanwhile, she's in the same room as Shinobu and Arata, who each have their own matches. They're going to be fine. And Taichi is on a mission. He is like, I am tired of being B-ranked no more. So we're rooting for Taichi, right? I have a lot of comment material to get to, so we just need to dive right in. It's cold outside. I got my coffee. Let's get started, shall we? We actually have two poem translations today. The first one is from Noda. For episode 18, they said, I see Grace has already provided great insight in today's poem with Macmillan's and Mo Styles translations, and those two are probably some of the more romantic versions, so I'm happy to say that our trusty Redditor found a more dramatic version. The poem of the day for episode 18 is My Fear is That You Will Forget. Poem 54 is written by Takashina no Takako. Takako was the wife of Fujiwara no Michitaka and was also known as the mother of the honorary Grand Minister, or as Kono Naishi. The former references her son, Korichika, who is known as the honorary Grand Minister, while the latter is a combination of the first character of her patronymic family name, Taka or Ko, and her position-serving Emperor Inyu, Naishi. She was also the mother to the Empress Taishi. What a famous woman! Naturally, Takako came from a remarkable family even before this fame, allowing her to develop her talents for Chinese poetry, which we can associate with power, given the nature of all the poets in the Hyakunin Isshu. Poem 54 was written shortly after her marriage and was meant to represent the joy of the occasion. Mo Style translates the poem as, because that future, until which, you say, you will never forget, is hard to rely on. Oh, if only today could be the last day of my life. Mo Style's translation is a lot more romantic than the others I've read. For example, the listing on virginia.edu, we love an edu site, go with that education source, credibility, goes with, if remembering me will for him in the future years be too difficult, it would be well this very day that I should end my life. Porter remarks similarly, it is supposed that this verse was written in a fit of jealousy against her husband. She is shown in the picture all alone at home, bewailing her lot. This is also the translation used in the series, so we'll roll with it for this one. The poem ties into the episode as Shinobu remembers her friendship with the girl she met at her Karuta Society. Separated from her and children her age, Shinobu had to grow up alone. So in a way, it was the last day of that world in which she belongs to. Like Chihaya, instead, Shinobu's Karuta is cold and ruthless, just like the world of isolation that she found herself in. The memories are hard for her. She repeatedly mentions that she shouldn't have come to that and that she should leave, but she can't tear her eyes away from the bright, passionate Karuta being played in front of her, a place where she once belonged, but now finds herself on the sidelines, stranded as a bystander. I feel like that in a lot of reasons in comparison to last episode, my throat, is why, trying to get this, excuse me, is why she is very much determined to try and show that the individual matches are more important, because she doesn't like this idea of her being left behind and her being a bystander, which if you're the queen, why would you want to be viewed as a bystander? That would be crazy. So it's understandable why she feels this way. So yeah, so thank you, Noda, for that translation for episode 18. And then we have these comments for episode 19. H Banana says, Taichi finally gambled. He played the game on faith in God and himself. All this time, he has depended on his perfect memory and tactics, plus this faulty self-image. Oh, his unrequited love, where will it take us? Well, 2 steps forward and 1 step back, apparently. I'm like, episode 19 was such an amazing episode, and then episode 20, I'm like, what are we doing, mangaka? So We'll see where that goes. We'll see where that goes. Alexander Q says, as well for Taichi in episode 19, Taichi saying he wants to become master at the same time Chihaya becomes queen made me swoon. It went greedy now. Yes, he needs to be more greedy. And I hope it keeps going that way and he starts to be more forward with Chihaya and forthright with what he wants. Stops overthinking things so much and goes for it. He truly has the mettle for it. Girl, we're on the same page. Our boy, he shows so much promise in episode 19. I'm like, he just needs to win the B rank matches. And if that gives him enough confidence, he can tell Chihaya how he feels. That's probably not going to happen until season 3 because this mangaka wants to draw out this romance as long as it possibly can be. This not even romance. It's not even a romance. It's just drawing out the tease of it. I'm like, ah. Anyway. So now Alexander Q says, I'm going to address something from the previous episode 18, because I didn't have the time to write a comment then and I'm catching up now. But I thought it was interesting how Shinobu mentioned she didn't like the reader because she conveys too much information. And it seemed to me that Shinobu felt overwhelmed with all the information and preferred readers that were more straightforward, who make it easier to concentrate on the cards, since she seems to memorize them really well and not have all that information thrown at her. Though the whole idea of synesthesia has been used in Karuta and it's so intriguing, especially if that's what makes Suo so good. I like the idea. That it is a form of neurodivergence, like synesthesia. It is. It's a different way of thinking than the majority of the population. Not that it's wrong or right. It's just different. And so I like the idea that Karuta kind of allows you to have an advantage because of that neurodivergence. I think that's really cool. I like that. And so it's interesting to see how she kind of gets overstimulated by the reading from Yamashiro. I think that's fascinating. Love it. The final comment I have is a really long one, and I'm not going to read it entirely verbatim, but I'm going to go through it and pick it out for y'all. Grace says for episode 19, poem 46 was written by Sone no Yoshitada, lived towards the end of the 11th century. Not much is known about him. And then translated by Mostow, the poem reads, like a boatman crossing the Strait of Ura, whose oar cord has snapped. I'm lost and know not my way on the road of love. Macmillan translates it as, crossing the Bay of Ura, the boatman loses the rudder. The boat is adrift, not knowing where it goes. Is the course of love like this? And then Porter translates it as, the fishing boats are tossed about when stormy winds blow strong. With rudder lost, how can they reach the port for which they long? So runs the old love song. I love that this one verse gets translated in 3 different ways, and there is like a distinct 3-way like version of analyzing it. I think that translation is fascinating in itself, but it's so interesting when looking at this poem. I love it. Grace says, I love this poem so much that I provided the 3 translations, but my favorite is Mostow's, which is the one I memorized. Although I still prefer the last verse of the show, I know not where this love will take me. How about you, friends? Which do you prefer? I think Mostow's is really good. I like it. I like also Macmillan's as well. Porter's is more rhymey. It's okay, but I like Macmillan's and Mostow's the best. In the last episode, I've talked about love, memory, and suffering as the main themes of Taichi's character. Well, yes. And this problem in this poem is more emblematic of his love journey. It's important to notice when I talk about love, I don't just mean his love for Chihaya, but his love or lack thereof for himself and his love of Karuta. Yeah, Taichi's a complex character, which I like about him. I just also want to gently shake him sometimes because of that complexity. So they talk about, you'll have to go to episode 19 on YouTube. It's a very long comment, but it's very worth it, where they talk about the situation of the boatman and the Ura Bay and the translation and what it means. Usually estuaries are where the river and ocean meet, and they're very dangerous locations with strong outgoing tides, rip currents, whirlpools, sandbars, among other dangers. These bodies of water are also often called graveyards because of the high incidence of accidents. Basically, this is like conveying the idea of a dying for love, which it points out Taichi is in this perilous situation, which I love that connection. That's really cool. However, there could also be a positive interpretation of the poem in this specific context. And so they talk about the rituals that happens that are taught by Sensei. The ritual that was taught by Sensei last season is related to the bow twice deeply, clap twice, pray with palms, then bow once more. Side note, water is something that you could offer to the gods. And for purification purposes, you have to wash your hands and mouth. So I like the idea of water being tied to the ritual, to cleansing, to Tai Chi like letting go and gambling, and also like asking the god for like to let this card be read in his favor this one time. I kind of love that. It's great. In this episode, people comment about Tai Chi's notorious bad luck and that Tai Chi always has been pessimistic and he never gambles, but he's desperately trying to change and he's helplessly and hopelessly in love with Chihaya, daring not to have hope, but to have faith. Hope is different from faith because it carries the expectation you will get a positive outcome, but faith means you are aware that you can't get your wish by your own strength. The situation might be hopeless and impossible, but you're sure that God will your wish. You're sure that by God's will, your wish will come true. And Tai Chi is praying for a miracle, which ends up working out in his favor. Look at that. There is an ominous feeling in that he's afraid he'll never get another chance like this again. His destiny is sealed because he finally took a gamble, the biggest one of all. But like the boatman adrift in the lead in how it can lead to tragedy, everything with he's been doing, his hard work, his memorization, they all might be useless and futile. His bet on his youth, as advertised by Harata sensei, it could all be in vain. However, at Omijingu, the most sacred place of Karuta, the gods are watching over him. And when this selfless boy makes a selfish wish, he's cleansed all of his bad luck for just this moment and is able to win, sharing this blessing with his team. I like that phrasing of a selfless boy making a selfish wish, which is very, very true, right? It's very telling at the end. He's so stunned. He's the only one on the team not celebrating. Everyone surrounds him and hugs him tightly. Their hard work brought them to victory and played a crucial part in their journey to the championship. But it was his leadership and his courage to change and his challenge of the 3 wins during adversity that started to change the tides and bend fate in their favor. In the picture on the screen, we can see clearly for the team, he became the center. So in the end, he's completely surrounded by the team crying their eyes out, letting their tears wash over him some more. See, I was all about Tai Chi at the end of episode 19. And then episode 20 was just like, let's keep that going. What are we doing, mangaka? And I get the mangaka's like, well, we can't have just Tai Chi just have everything go in his favor now that this one thing has happened. But give the boy a break, mangaka. I also wish that Tai Chi had overcame his jealousy in that moment. I feel like he made such strides in episode 19 that for him to fall back on jealousy, which for the record, Arata has no clue about. Arata has no idea that Tai Chi is jealous of him to this extent. He has no idea. He really doesn't. He's just like, hey, that was me looking at the moon and we all played on a great team together. He has no clue that Tai Chi has made himself Arata's enemy. He has no idea. I'm hoping that at least Tai Chi steps up and I'm like, okay, I understand why you want to make Arata your enemy. I get it. You like Chihaya and you feel like Arata is a threat to your romance with her. But now that you've had a taste of stepping it up, by the end of this season, I expect him to be like, I expect him by the end of this individuals match, if he wins the B rank and becomes class A rank, I need Tai Chi to go up at the end of this season, look Arata straight in the face and be like, I like Chihaya, you're an enemy, I'm going to win her hand, just you wait. And Arata, at least if Arata's like, what? Then it'll at least be out in the open. I don't expect Arata to challenge him back. I think Arata would be completely sidelined and be like, what is going on? But I at least want Tai Chi to vocalize his viewpoints to Arata so that Arata is not in the dark that he has this rivalry he doesn't even know about. Now, whether that will happen or not, I have no freaking idea. I have no idea. But we can hope. We can hope Tai Chi will step it up, right? Right. Anyway, thank you all so much for your comments and your kind words. I greatly appreciate them. I am so excited to see what's going to happen this episode. I feel like Chihaya is going to win, but I don't know how or if it's going to make things worse. So I guess we need to find out, right? All right, we are going to get ready and start episode 21 of season 2, aka episode 46 of Chihayafuru. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. There we go. I really liked this episode a lot. This was a lot of fun, and we have lots of things to talk about, so we just need to dive right into it. Pull up your sleeves, get ready. Whiteboard Kun is back. We ended up in round 3 because we've been able to keep track of the rounds this time around because the individual tournaments we can actually legit watch, and Chihaya was not immediately out from last time, which was great. So basically we have obviously the final, which is going to take place, and we'll talk about that here by the end of this episode. Then we have our top 4, which would be like this. We're going to put 4 things here versus there, where we have this versus this. I'm going to try to lay out the bracket of how we think it's going to go down. Now we have, they're such a tease. They were such a tease because they started out at the end of this episode by Chihaya and Shinobu getting picked in the first top 8 rounds. So we don't get to see any of the other matchups yet. That's such a tease. They want you to want to watch the next episode. It's like, how dare you? So we have these 4 here, and then versus, we're going to put them out here. It's interesting because at least 3 of the 8, which is a sizable chunk, are 3 of the Class A members from Fujisaki, which is, that means somebody got out. Somebody didn't win their match, which is interesting. But we're going to go back and look at that. And then that means that in round 2, there were 16 A ranked players. 16 A ranked. And we'll talk about that here in a hot second. I'm going to move these markers over here. And then that means that was round 2. So round 1 would have been 32. 32 A ranked players, and they just went down from there. So we've gone from 32 down to the top 8. Initially, I was surprised that there were only 32 playing in the individual tournaments compared to like all the teams from yesterday. However, in all the teams from yesterday, there were probably a ton of B ranked players, a ton of B ranks, a lot of C's, and some D's. I would imagine I'd imagine there's not a lot of C and D's because if you made it to the national finals, the national championships, you probably don't have a lot of C and D's unless there's like 1 or 2 in your team that fills up the team. But I imagine there's a ton of B people. And we're going to talk about that because conveniently, the Empress did not mention how Taichi did, I don't think. And I'm like, I imagine that when Chihaya loses, Chihaya's not making it to the top 2. No, that's not going to happen. And she's not beating Shinobu with a hurt hand, an injured hand. She's not beating Shinobu. That's just not going to happen. No, that's not going to happen. I wish it could, but no. So I don't think Chihaya is making it to the top 4. However, I think there's a very good chance it's going to be Arata versus Shinobu in the final. A very good chance. I feel like the parents might get their wish if Arata does not win against Shinobu, but he might. And then the parents are going to be like, well, what do we do? So I have theories about that. We're going to talk about it. I don't know exactly how I'm going to get a couple things set up here that were brought up in this episode to convert a couple of things. And I want to talk about admissions. Okay. From outside prefectures. I'm very curious. I want to know some things, so we're going to discuss a few things with that. But yeah, we're going to get started here and bring up the screenshots and talk about this here in 3, 2, 1. A sign of a good episode to me is when there's not a big recap. When there's not a long recap, to me that's like we're getting down to business. We got things to do, and that to me is a sign of a good episode. And that's exactly what this did. This episode was like, we're not going to waste time. But it was mainly about Chihaya finding ways to overcome her adversity that she had against you. So I really like this episode a lot in terms of building up Chihaya as a player. The idea that Chihaya could be ambidextrous and the callback to episode 1 where she used the left hand to get the card against Arata, I had forgotten about that. I'd forgotten about the left hand. That was mind-blowing. I was like, oh, it's been there all along. And Arata made those connections. So we're going to talk about that over here. The idea of Arata. So some things that we noted about Arata. He remembers their first game, because of course he does. Arata is what I would call an oblivious romantic. I feel like, and we're going to put Taichi over here. Since we didn't get Taichi in this episode, we're going to vicariously talk about him through Arata, right? Taichi is an obvious romantic. That is the difference. We have an oblivious romantic and an obvious romantic. Taichi has been in his inner monologue, in his mind palace, strooning poetry about Karuta and Chihaya for seasons now. Arata is romantic. He just doesn't realize it. Taichi is very aware of his romanticism. Taichi is aware he likes Chihaya. He's aware of how hopeless he is in love with her. He is very much aware of his love for her, and it's coming around with Karuta and himself, his love for these things as well. But Arata is oblivious. Arata is talking about the moon. He's talking about Chihaya, and he's very open about his feelings and thoughts about things. But he's very oblivious to the what they mean. Like, him talking about the moon, he's like, oh, I must sound creepy. I'm like, no, dude, you sound like a romantic man in love. That's what you sound like. And him coming to Chihaya after the match, I'm like, why can't Taichi do this? We would already, the triangle of love would be crushed already if or we could just speed run to get to the nitty gritty of it. We'll talk about it when we get further into this. But yeah, Arata is an oblivious romantic. Taichi is an obvious romantic. Taichi, he does not reminisce much except as a team occasionally. And Arata reminisces quite a bit. The thing is, Arata reminisces, and so do Taichi, but I feel like Taichi, I don't know, if we were doing a side-by-side comparison, I don't think Taichi I feel like Taichi doesn't draw as much to the past, because there are parts of those past encounters that he's kind of embarrassed about, like his conversation with Arata, like the fact of when he left and all there's things that Taichi is kind of concerned about with the past experiences with Chihaya and Arata, whereas Arata does not have those same thoughts, which is fascinating to me because Arata went through a lot of trauma too. I don't think that can be understated. Arata's grandfather dying is a major life event, and Arata doesn't really bring it up. I think that's important to note and not forget, right? So we have all these people. How many? There were 1, 2, 3. There was 4. There was 4 or 5 of Fujisaki's A ranks, and only 3 made it out. So that's interesting. That is interesting to me. So curious. And then there was, Retro-kun's class B. That's right. Ness is the one that was class A ranked, and he's made it so far. Sudo will not have it otherwise. So yeah, Yu was a pretty formidable opponent. I've talked about this with Jujutsu Kaisen, which is a series that I'm watching on this channel. And the idea, there's a lot of talk about, in that series, there's a lot of talk about what makes a woman and female versus male in terms of strength. And I don't know, I've always been a proponent of, I don't like the phrase like I use it myself because I'm conditioned to use it from how I was raised in the 90s. But that whole be a man or swing like a man or do stuff, I'm like, it's so ingrained in how I grew up, but I kind of hate it now because it inherently puts women in a more inferior category. And I feel like the mangaka is kind of like how I was. They were raised in the 80s or 90s, and that's been ingrained into their system, that kind of archetype and that prejudice. And so it's very hard to get around it. And Japan is more conservative as a country, so it's understandable those tropes would be perpetuated. This came out in the early 2000s. It's just, the perpetuation of it makes sense. I get why it happens. But to me, it's like comparing you to a man is kind of a disservice to her, because no, she's just strong. She's just strong. It's not that she's strong like a man. Have you seen Scuba? Have you seen Scuba and Tsutomu? Not to emasculate them, but they are men too. We're not comparing her to them. So it bothers me, because body types, your sex should not dictate that you are strong or not, right? And I feel like there are some stereotypes in this episode that are getting perpetuated that kind of bug me a little bit, but we have to understand this series is a time capsule of its time, and the manga came out even before the anime, so the mangaka, I feel, is like me and has grown up with those prejudiced archetypes, and it's very hard to break away from them when you've been indoctrinated with them your entire life. So not to make this all progressive and everything, but it's just a stereotype. I feel like it's a disservice to you by comparing her to a man, She's just strong. That's just all it is. Okay, so Nishida beat the Fujisaki guy, and it seems like there was one more that got beat too. The guy that beat Scuba, I'm not surprised that Nishida beat him. Not surprised Nishida beat him. No. But yeah. So Chihaya's figuring out. I like that Chihaya, she's very much a character that she has to figure things out in her own time. You can tell her all day long, but she's like, she needs to come to that realization in her own terms, in her own way. So I like that she's realizing that, oh, I'm used to playing with my right hand. I'm used to focusing my body on those movements on my right side. So of course, now that I'm using my left hand, everything is different. And she's trying to she gets to it by the end of the episode. She gets to the idea that you have to mirror what you're doing. That's crazy. And if Chihaya manages to figure out, that's something for Chihaya to work on, honestly, because one thing that is really cool is the idea of Chihaya being able to play both hands. Honestly, if she were looking for a way to make her different, she's got good game sense. Like, Chihaya has good game sense when it comes to how she listens, how she interprets the words, her quickness there. She also is fast, which is a benefit. I mean, I would argue it's better to be fast and be able to slow down than to always be slow and not be able to speed up. I think that is an advantage. It is an advantage. You don't always want to be fast because you can make faults and make mistakes if you're not careful. But I think it's easier once you're quick to slow yourself down than to not be able to speed up enough. I think that it does not work both ways. So if she can be fast, have good game sense, and play both-handed players, that's crazy. That would give her such an advantage because Shinobu is left-handed. So she's figuring out, oh, if I play someone left-handed and I can mirror my movements to kind of match that, that is good. That is interesting. And I feel like, to me, I think that Chihaya is going to stay in the top 8. I cannot see her making it to the top 4. I just can't. I can't see her making it to the top 4. I cannot see her beating Shinobu. Shinobu has nothing wrong. Shinobu's on top of her game, and Shinobu has a purpose. Now, this could be interesting because I think that she's facing Shinobu, right? She's facing Shinobu. We know that the ones that are out include well, here's the thing. We're going to get to that. The ones that are out from round 2 include the one guy from Fujisaki. And that, we also know that it is Arata. Oh, wait, no, it was Arata versus Nishida in round 2. What am I doing? Yeah, what am I doing? He got out. So Nishida was out. Yes. All right. Nishida did not make the top 8. Yeah, he got in the top 16. So Nishida was out and all that. I think that Shinobu will make it to the top 4. Now, will Shinobu make it to the end? Will Shinobu face off against Arata in the next round and then Arata beat her and then he ends up in the final and she doesn't? That seems like it would not be possible. However, depending on, you got a 50-50 shot. I think if Shinobu, we'll save till the end because I want to get everybody up on the scoreboard here, but I don't think Chihaya is going to make it to the top 4. However, I do think that Chihaya is going to have a conversation because here's what's going to happen. This is my prediction. This is Romania's prediction for the next episode or 2, depending on, we've only got 2, 3, we've got 4 episodes left, right? I think next episode will be all about Shinobu and Chihaya. I think it will conclude in episode 23, and then we'll have episode 24 and 25 to end the season and set up for season 3. I feel like Shinobu will hold it over Chihaya and taunt her and be like, see, if you didn't care about team matches, you might have won the individual matches because your hand wouldn't have been injured and da-da-da-da-da-da. I think she's going to try to taunt her with that. And I think Chihaya is going to respond by being like, oh, well, I'm glad I won the team match and won nationals. Like, that means as much to me as being the queen. I think that Shinobu is trying to prove a point with the individual matches, and she's going to try to lord that over Chihaya. And I think Chihaya is going to respond in a way that's going to throw Shinobu off. I think it's going to throw her off. And whether or not she can recover from that to make it to the final, I don't know. Or maybe she will make it to the final and win and then talk to Chihaya and then Chihaya will be like, whatever. I do feel like regardless of what happens, Shinobu's victory over Chihaya won't be complete because she'll know in the back of her mind that Chihaya wasn't at her full strength. She wasn't at 100%. And honestly, one thing this series is showing us is this concept of silver linings. is this concept of silver linings, right? Because the silver lining is that because Arata helped out Shoji, it's like this big interconnected web. Because Arata helped out Shoji and their team, he was reinvited to the concept of teamwork and how envious he was of the team he once had and blah, 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 blah. He got wind of that. But also because of that, it allowed him to make Shinobu go and watch the team match, which has influenced and brought back past trauma and made her rethink all these kind of things towards the team system. And because of all this, Chihaya's hand injury is what has caused her to realize she can play both hands. So even though it may cause her to lose her second year's individual matches, like she's steadily made progress. Last year, she couldn't get past round 1, right? Round 1 and round 2. She couldn't get to the top 8. This year, she's made it to the top 8. Next year, if she's a third year, I think she can make top 4 of the final. So it's slow and steady wins the race, right? So I think that these little things, even though whenever we were having the final match, I was like, damn it, she's hurt her hand. What are we going to do? But now I feel like it's a silver lining. Yes, she injured her hand. They still won the finals, the national competition, and it's allowed her to realize a possible advantage she could and should take advantage of in the future. The series giving us boons when we thought they were banes. I love it. I think it's great. Also, I like that Yu is trying to avenge her loss from yesterday. Here's the thing about it, you can't put that kind of emotion into a match. No, from a coaching standpoint, you just can't do it. If the moment you start to let that emotion take heed, it's going to throw you off your focus. It's going to throw you off your goal. You just can't act that way. You have to go in being like, I'm just going to do the thing that I do and let the cards fall where they fall. And that's going to be that. And that's kind of what Chihaya does in this episode. She's like, I'm just going to let the cards fall where they fall. I'm going to rely on my instincts. I'm going to make this work. And what does it do? It works for her. Seriously. But yeah. And I like that Chihaya's like, okay, I can't think too much about it. No. Chihaya is quite opposite of Taichi. Taichi overthinks very easily. Chihaya's brain will combust. We just need the steam to get out the ears. Let's not think too much about it. She's like, I just have to swing. That is where Arata needs to practice more. Taichi, I mean. Taichi needs to live by those words. He just has to swing. He just has to swing. That's all he has to do in life and in Karuta. If Taichi would take more gambles and trust his instincts, trust his memory, trust his ability, and just swing like Chihaya is doing, he would be so good. He would be so good. And he needs to do that outside of the Karuta mats as well. He needs to just take a swing. He needs to say, hey, Chihaya, I like you. Just putting it out there, because otherwise she's never going to know. Chihaya's not going to figure it out. You're going to have to point her in the right direction. And then she'll figure it out. But Taichi may need to get onto that because of things that have happened in this episode. I'm like, Taichi, my dude, you may need to get onto that because the wheels are in motion and you have no idea what's coming down the pipeline. So yeah, I liked Yu a lot in this episode. I thought she was great. I really appreciated her fervor and her fire. I like that she was all out to beat Chihaya. Man, Chihaya got lucky. Chihaya got very lucky in this match here. I feel like whoever she faced second, I don't know if we'll see them again. I want to see who they faced in the first round because I think her second round, she lucked out again getting a decent competitor because we didn't even get to see the match. It wasn't even worth seeing. It was just so easy for her. But Yu is insanely honest. Chihaya's sense of fighting for cards sucks. So if she had gotten somebody like Megumu a second time, I don't think that would have worked out for her. But luckily, Yu is extremely honest and easy to read, and that worked to the advantage. Man, speaking of easy to read, we're going to talk about the parents. That blew my mind. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, so you cannot help but be honest. She's like, you won that card. Obvious, girl, here's the thing. One thing that if she's going to be queen, I don't know how she thinks she can be queen alongside Megumu. I'm like, girl, this ain't a twin crown. We're not doing a double crowning on this. But one thing that both Yu and Chihaya have to get better at is they've got to get better at fighting for cards. Because you're going to come up against somebody like that girl that was the queen, the former queen that Chihaya faced last year. I'm like, you're somebody that's going to fight for them cards. You're going to face them again. So you're going to need to learn to at least fight a little bit, not just give it away. But yeah. And she's like, is this how left-handed players see a right-handed cover? I love it. I love it. Look, I was talking with Be Happy, the moderator, about this because Be Happy was like, I really ship Arata and Taichi. And it breaks my heart because I would love to ship Arata and Taichi. I think the enemies to lovers storyline with them, the childhood friends to enemies to lovers, it's right there in front of us. It is such an amazing ship opportunity. But when I watch a series like this, that clearly is like, we're going to have one of these guys end up with Chihaya, it makes me like, what is the point of wasting my energy and frustration shipping these two men when we know that's not going to happen? Likewise, I would ship Chihaya and Shinobu in a heartbeat. I would be like, okay, Arata, Taichi, you guys go off and do your enemies to lovers thing and you quarrel it out and go make out somewhere else. And I'm like, Shinobu and Chihaya being ultimate rivals for the queendom, I would ship it so hard. But I know that's not what the series is going to do. So I'm like, why do I waste my energy? At least in some series where they're shonen and you know there's probably not going to be any like end game relationships, you can ship all you want because you're like, it's fair game. The show isn't leading us on in a certain direction. It's just, fair game for everyone. But in shows like these, it's like, it's kind of like I just got done watching a romance anime and the pairings were so obvious. And I'm like, it'd be like if I tried to switch them up, it's like, what's the point? The show is not doing that. So I don't know. I do like the love triangle, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I would ship Shinobu and Chihaya in a heartbeat if the show was going to give me any inkling that that was a possibility. But what can we do? This reader was okay. I like that as I watch this show more, you can start to tell that, and this is no shade against the reader in this episode, but you can start to tell like the difference in quality between the readers. And that's kind of cool as a viewer to start finding that distinction. That's really neat. I like that a lot. But yeah, so Chihaya is getting better, slowly but surely. I like that the Empress was like, has she always been left-handed and we just didn't know? I like the Empress is legitimately considering being like, is she supposed to be left-handed? And I say that because my aunt is left-handed, and when she was a kid back in the 80s, my great-grandmother was trying to like convert her and like get her to use her right hand because that was believed to be correct, which is wild, unreal. But yeah, she was trying to convince her to use her left hand and it didn't work. My aunt still is left-handed today, but I know that there's a lot of people that grew up around that time or earlier that may actually be left-handed and were just taught to be right-handed because that was the way to do things. So who knows? Maybe Chihaya is ambidextrous and has always been. My other great-grandmother, not the one that tried to convert my aunt, but my other great-grandmother, she was ambidextrous. She could use both hands. She could sew. She could cook. She did everything with both hands. And so I always thought that was so cool as a kid. She could just do things like it was nothing. I'm like, that was so neat. But yeah, she's like, the moment that an opponent starts to say they can come back and do things, I'm like, can you? Also, I liked this shot here because I was looking back and seeing Pseudo. Of course, Pseudo's watching Ness, but at the same time, I'm like, is he watching Chihaya too? We don't know. And she's like, I can take cards on the opponent's side. And then she realizes, I like that she refers it to riding a bike with the brakes held down halfway. Like, she's like, I can't move forward. Something's holding me back. Why is this not working? I love that she came to that conclusion and then figured it out. I was like, yes, girl. I love that for her. That was awesome. So yeah, so Makoto and all of them are like, oh shit, the match is over. Like, Arata won like every card and the other guy committed 2 faults. Everybody's all impressed, but I'm like, it's Shoji. It's Shoji. Are we surprised? We are not surprised. And then Shinobu won her match instantly, 25-0 as well. Perfectly. I honestly was expecting for Shinobu and Arata to talk in this episode. They did not. I feel like Shinobu's in the zone. And I don't blame her. When I was at tournaments competing, I was not the most social person because I was in the zone. I was like, I'm here to win. I'm here to do my thing. I'm here to do all this. And then I'm going to go home and it'll be great. but that was the thing, right? So I get that Shinobu would not want to talk to Arata right now. She's like, not until the final, not till we face each other. I'm so glad this happened. I'm so glad this episode, we get a couple things. One, he's like, what kind of Karuta does Chihaya play? Because, it's been a while since he's played her. How does Chihaya play Karuta now? Like, I'm glad he's asking these questions. And then that's when he sees that she's injured, right? So, essentially, we're going to talk a little bit about this, but Arata remembers how she got the first card from him with her left hand. He remembers that. He is also completely won over by her passion. Same as Taichi. Won over by her passion. These two boys won over by the same things about Chihaya. They both love her and her commitment and passion for Karuta. I would argue, if you told me that they love her and her passion in different ways, yes, I think so. But I think that we have to make it different because of just the circumstance. Taichi's been around her on a day-to-day basis. He's been around her. He's seen her quirks. He's seen how she is, her greed, everything. Arata is just seeing an overall picture. He's not seeing like the nitty-gritty details that Taichi has seen, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But he overall sees the passion. Like, it comes through. How could you not see it? Right? And thinks she's insane for using her left hand. Right? And meanwhile, she's like, okay, if I were using my right hand, I could take these without thinking. What do I need to do to make that happen? And I like that Arata's like, that's crazy. Like, Arata cannot believe that she is taking this gamble, that she's taking this risk, right? Just a slide here. There we go. I'm like, he cannot believe that this is, there we go, doing that for her. So I like that Arata's a bit skeptical because he doesn't know her as well as the others do. Like, Nishida and the others were just like, okay, fine. It's like, you've gotten used to taking cards from your own side. Your cards are placed for a right-handed player. I like that Arata realizes the problem as Chihaya realizes, and she's like, oh, I'll just move all the cards over. I do also like that they acknowledge that you're not supposed to do that. The guy's like, hey, that's actually really rude. You should not move all your cards at once. It's kind of, the guy that's the ref is kind of like, hey, Chihaya, that's a dick move. I wouldn't do that. She's like, oh my God, I didn't even know. And again, you messes up. You messes up because you doesn't fight for the cards. She doesn't fight for the cards. She's too honest. I'm like, girl, play a dirty game. You would have beat her. But also, you is like, oh yeah, no, she can do. You got cocky. You got cocky. You got arrogant, thinking like, oh, I don't. And I don't think use honesty as arrogance because that's just how she is. Chihaya is the same way. That's not arrogance. That's not cockiness. What is cocky is she's like, no, she can move the cards wherever she wants to. I'll still be okay. I'm like, no. If someone that you're watching as an opponent immediately makes a drastic shift like that, it's for a reason. I'd be like, hey, can we contest that, actually? I wouldn't let her move all the cards. I'd say, hey, can we just move half? But she didn't do it. She thought, because she was up by 10 cards, that things would be fine. She's like, most players would give up. And again, when she starts this monologue, I'm like, girl, you have sealed your fate. She's like, you took your team to a victory. It's totally okay. Like, you can give up now and just let me win. And I'm like, girl, you should know Chihaya from the fact that your team faced hers. She is not just going to give up. But to use credit, she was probably too focused on Nishida that she wasn't paying attention to the rest of the matches. But still, you just made a bunch of fatal mistakes that I was like, nope, you're going to lose, you're going to lose, you're going to lose, based on all of that. Also, is that the twin? Is that the twin that got booted out of Fujisaki in the one game? Is that him? Is he standing right next to Arata? If you don't play in the team tournament, are you not allowed to play the next day? I thought he was. He's like, if I only get one match, and she says this, if I get one match to use my right hand, I want it to be Arata. Which, here's the thing. That makes what she does at the end of this episode so badass. Because at the time, she's like, no, I'm going to use my right hand to face Arata. Because he's my end goal. I want to make it to the final with him. And I love Arata's just like, oh, she got that. She got that card so quickly. But then, yeah, she mirrored it over. Yeah, and then she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And Yu says it's okay. She's like, she's playing with a handicap. I'm like, This girl is one of the top players in the entire tournament. I would not let her get her way because of a handicap. No, 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 no. You play her like properly. Also, again, so manly. I have an issue with it, but I would use chivalrous if I were the translator, because it's like the chivalry, it's like being polite, which I guess that's tied to masculinity too, but whatever. But I do love that Chihaya is like, oh my god, that's so nice. Again, if you made this a Yuri, I would be on board with it. I'd be on board if Chihaya was in a Yuri, and that's how this was. Yeah, and then when you was like, I have no idea how this helps, I'm like, girl, this does not help you at all. You should not have let her do this. I'm like, she says it's suicidal to mess with the positioning, it's a gamble. I'm like, yeah, but Chihaya's really good at gambling. Chihaya gambles a lot. She relies on her instincts a lot. That's kind of where she kind of excels. When she starts overthinking, it's too much. No, she's just got to follow her heart. She listens to her heart. And she's like, do what I usually do, just with my left hand. And that's all she has to do. And everybody's just like, well, Arata's just like, oh, wow. Huh. She played really great. For Arata, this man who's won how many titles and is one of the top players in Japan, for him to call her incredible. We're going to get to that scene. She's like, I did it. It's just like normal. And Arata's just amazed. He's just amazed that she's able to play like this. And I think he can see why her team is so incredible and why they would win nationals. And he's like, yeah, instead of taking cards from the direction to that direction, she's just taking them from that direction to this direction. She's just making a mirror. Yeah. And it's less confusing if you just mirror it. Yep. Then try to change it up. He's like, is she a secret genius? No. Chihaya's just smart. She's adaptable. And that's really important in this game. So yeah. And like, she looks back at Megumu, who is okay, Megumu is facing somebody from Fujisaki. Okay, so Megumu beat out somebody from Fujisaki ×2. There we go. Good for Megumu. Good for Megumu. Good for her. So yeah. And then meanwhile, Yu is really struggling against Chihaya. And Chihaya's like, she's not here to play. Mm-mm. And Arata is just fascinated. He's just amazed. He's like, oh, the headband girl recovered. But yeah, doesn't matter. In the end, I'm glad that Chihaya's hand was not hurt. I was really worried for a second that when you struck that it was going to hit her hand, but it went under it. I was like, we don't need to have Chihaya with mittens running around the rest of the Karuta game. No, 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 no. We don't need that. We don't need that. So, interesting. Now, my one question is, I like that Chihaya also sees the fire in her, and she's so inspired. She's like, you're not treating me. I like that Chihaya is happy that people aren't giving her a handicap. They're treating her like a professional player and like someone on par with them. That's great. I love that. That's amazing. That's what she deserves as a player. Now, there's also another tournament to determine who faces the queen, right? Because Shinobu is the queen right now. So they're going to have another tournament to determine later on who is going to face the queen. And then they're going to have the tournament to see who's going to face the master, right? That's still to come. I feel like that's still to come. And Taichi's going to be aiming for that too, if he can win this tournament. But yeah, it was sweet. And that little blush that pops up on Arata's face, that was the moment. That's the moment that he, again, oblivious romantic. I think that's the moment he fell in love with her, realizing what an amazing player she was, because Arata is kind of like Chihaya. He likes amazing players, but he doesn't realize it. He doesn't realize that he loves her, I don't think. He's just like, she's playing so hard with her left hand, having fun. Yeah, she is having fun. And yeah, he's just like, now that I think about it, the first card she took with me was from her left hand. Uh-huh. It must be fun playing Karuta with Chihaya. Okay. That shot there, or he's like playing with her must be fun. So, Arata realizes that playing with Chihaya must be a fun time. Meanwhile, and to him, I think that is his love. Meanwhile, Taichi just has this romantic love of Chihaya and who she is. Okay, this is where it gets crazy, right? This is where the love triangle gets really crazy, because here's the thing, and we're gonna just draw it down here because there's not enough room up there with that and my theories. So you have Chihaya. What we know about Chihaya is that she would love someone that is good at Karuta. She has said so to Kana, which Taichi and Scuba were like, ah. But her thing is, Chihaya to me is like practically asexual at this point. She does not have romantic interest, I don't believe, towards either Arata nor Taichi. I don't think she has romantic interest of them at all. She just wants to play Karuta and have a good time, right? She just also loves Karuta and playing / having fun with it. That's what she loves. That's the best part to her. She is not thinking about anything romantic at all. Then you have Arata over here, and Arata is all about, he loves Karuta. He loves Karuta, and he wants to play for reasons that are personal, but also he's established that he could have fun playing with Chihaya. Like, his whole thing is like, right now, he's like, I have an agenda. I have things I want to do. I'm doing things for my grandfather, for myself, everything. He's like, but playing with Chihaya would be a lot of fun. He's like, I bet her team is really, he's learning all about Chihaya's team this episode, which makes me have a theory, right? Where he's like, it would be a lot of fun to play with Chihaya. Now, the thing is, he says that because Chihaya kind of embodies this passion with Karuta that Arata is drawn to. It's why him and Shinobu get along so well, despite Shinobu thinking that they don't, because they're both passionate about it, right? So it's kind of like when you're a nerd and you find another fellow nerd who's just as into the thing that you're into, and you're like, oh my God, we should totally talk about this thing forever. Are you sexually attracted to that person? Not necessarily. Do you want to be around them? Yeah, sure. So, on the one hand, do I think that Arata is in love with Chihaya like Taichi's in love with her? No. I think Arata and Chihaya are very mutually, and right now, platonically attracted. I think right now it's like a queer platonic, you can call it queer platonic or you can just call it platonic. It's a platonic mutual love of each other. They're not sexually attracted to each other. Arata and Chihaya are not sexually or necessarily romantically attracted right now. They are just mutually attracted because of the love they have for Karuta and how much fun they both have enjoying playing it. That's what it is. It's a platonic mutual love for one another. It's a friendship. It's like they kind of are, it's a rivalry. It's an admiration. It's, it's just awesome. But then you have Taichi over here, and Taichi, I think that Taichi's love of Karuta is growing, and I think that's tying to his own self-worth. I think Taichi's love of Karuta is growing, and thus so is his love for himself. But he is not on the same level of that as Chihaya nor Arata. But his love of Chihaya, it's because of her passion. Don't get it twisted. It's because of her passion for Karuta, the same as he recognizes that passion and that fun and that love like Arata does, but he has a very sexual romantic attraction to her. It's not mutual. It's not platonic. It's not mutual right now, but it is not platonic. Taichi wants to romantically be with her, and he knows that she doesn't feel the same and suspects that she likes Arata, which she does, but Taichi doesn't realize it's not in a romantic way. So, you have lots of things that can come across from here. Meanwhile, these two boobs, Taichi thinks that they're rivals, and Arata thinks that they're friends. Arata thinks they're just friends, and Taichi thinks that they're just rivals. And I'm like, you guys are ridiculous. You need to just stop. But this leads to all these possibilities. What is so crazy about Arata that we're going to talk about in a hot second here is that Arata is very forward and vocal on his opinions and thoughts. We're going to talk about that in a hot second. Whereas Taichi is very closed off from sharing his thoughts. We've had a damn Hamlet-styled soliloquy every other episode from Taichi about his inner thoughts that he's not saying out loud when he should be. And meanwhile, Arata's over here being like, Chihaya, you're amazing. And I'm like, well, that took one episode of him and her being near each other. And it's been 46 with Taichi? And that's what's going to make this so crazy when we get to it. But I love that shot where he's like, it must be fun playing with her. And so then after the match, it gets over. And she's like, and I like that he was like, don't get the wrong idea. I didn't lose to you. And I'm like, you actually did. You did lose. Even if you lost because of your memory, it's still losing. And I like that what Chihaya took from that was, oh my God, she's memorizing so she gets better at Karuta. Our girl. But here's the thing. Like, Arata comes up out of nowhere and he's like, Chihaya. And he's like, that was incredible. Taichi would have overthought this moment and would have ran it through his mind 1,000 times being like, do I tell her? What if she thinks something bad about me? I don't know if you know she could. Taichi would never have done this. He never would have came out and just been like, you were amazing, Chihaya. Arata said it like it was nothing. Like just boop. And the reason why is because Arata is not necessarily sexually or romantically attracted to Chihaya. He just thinks she's amazing. And it's like, it's the difference of if you have a crush on somebody, you're constantly in fear of rejection. So Taichi won't say anything because he's afraid of his love being rejected and it being unrequited for the rest of his life. Arata has none of those worries right now. So he's just like, you are amazing, Chihaya. Oh my gosh. And Chihaya, he's like, you won with your left hand. That's incredible. And Chihaya is like, oh my God, the man that I've idolized for introducing to me Karuta and teaching me this passion is praising me. He's like, I believe you have a talent for Karuta. And to her, she's just like, oh my God, this is the best day of my life. My only thing that I get mad at is that this goes nowhere. We don't get to see any more about what she says, about what she thinks. She's just in this moment like, oh my God, senpai praised me. And that's it. It just stops. It cuts. I'm like, what? Mangaka, what are we doing with this? It's like the mangaka sets up these moments and then doesn't follow through with them. Like we set up the Taichi and Arata talk last episode, and then the follow through is just cut short. We set up this thing, cut short. We set up this thing, cut short. And I'm like, communication wise, we've built up 2 seasons worth, I don't know how many volumes of the manga for these moments to happen. And then it's like, the mangaka's like, yeah, he praised her. And I'm like, well, then what was her response other than blushing? None? What? What, mangaka? Come on, you gotta give us something more. Like, what do you mean there's nothing more? Like, what was her response? What is she connecting? Like, what? I mean, she's happy about it, but is there no more? What? And I feel like in this moment that, yeah, it's just them standing there and that's it. What are that is not realistic at all in real life. I'm sorry, but if Arata came up to someone in real life and was like, wow, you were incredible. That was awesome using your left hand. And the person that he told that to, they wouldn't just sit there and go, and say nothing. Nobody would do that in real life. What is the response? What is her response? Why aren't they talking? They've been wanting to talk and communicate and play with each other for years. And they finally get the chance to be together and they just stare awkwardly at each other and that's it. Mangaka, write better! I don't want to get onto this mangaka's writing, but when it comes to the romance, I'm like, that is not realistic. There has to be some kind of end conversation. I don't know if they just cut it from the manga or if it's just this awkward in the manga. Is it this awkward in the manga? I'm just like, what? As a teacher of writing, I'm like, you have to follow up with something. Even if she acknowledges it, just accept the compliment and then maybe make her think about it and reflect on that for the audience. But to have her just stand there like a damn Barbie doll, you gotta give your audience something. Something. That annoys me so much. And it's a tiny blip on this episode, but it is annoying. So the pairings for the second round are like Nishida and Chihaya. And Nishida's like, oh, I'm so excited. I got past the first round. And he's like, I avenged Scuba, which good for Scuba. Glad for that happening. And he's like, I feel like I can't lose today. That was Nishida's first mistake. That was his first mistake. You can't do that, because then immediately he gets paired up against Arata. I feel like, going back to Arata, I feel like he believes, he just is realizing how much fun it must be to be on a team with Chihaya and the others. Of course, Arata is viewing at it from a very, like, rose-tinted glasses frame. He only sees, like, he sees the product of their hard work, right? Arata just sees the product of the hard work. He doesn't get to see how the sausage is made. So he doesn't get to see when times are tough, or when they're not motivated, or when they're having, like, internal squabbles between, each other. He doesn't get to see that part. So for Arata, he gets to see this glossy, like, picturesque version of their hard work and how it's paid off, but he doesn't actually get to see the process to get there, right? Where, on the other hand, Taichi, if we're comparing, Taichi sees how the sausage is made. So he sees moments where Chihaya gets greedy and makes unreasonable requests, or when they only had 2 first years stick around after all their efforts, or when times got tough with Tsutomu and Kana and the others. And, Taichi, I would argue, in comparison to Arata, has seen the lows as well as the highs, whereas Arata's only seeing the highs. However, I do think that, and I wish Arata would tell Taichi, and maybe if he sees Taichi again after this, he'll talk to him and be like, I'm so jealous. You have this amazing team that you get to work with. I wish I had that. You're so lucky. And maybe that Taichi takes advantage of the team he has and he takes for granted how amazing that is, and Arata wishes he could have that, which is going to lead to something I've got a theory about for the end of the season, but I don't know if it's true or not. And she's like, I didn't get paired against Arata again. Meanwhile, here he comes. And so he just pops up there and he's like, oh, Chihaya, see you later. And Arata's just being nice. He's just like, okay, see, like, this is what's so frustrating, is Arata is initiating conversation. He's like, hey, I'm going to see you later, okay? And she's like, oh, sure. Girl, why aren't you talking back to him? I know you want to face him. She's getting a little Taichi in her, where she, no pun intended, God, but she has a little bit of a Taichi streak here, where she's so concerned about him being a rival that she doesn't want to communicate with him. And I'm like, stop that shit. Taichi's doing that shit. You don't need to do it too. Don't make Arata your rival. Weren't you both trying to, like, communicate and play with him? Stop. Like, come on. But here, when this happens, she's like, can I reach him? Or is he still out of reach? And that right there is the whole, I'm going to use pink for that, the idea of, can I reach him, is the same as Taichi being like, can I reach her? Back in season 1, when he was in the closet and he came out, not really, because this series is too cowardly, but when he was, and he reached for Chihaya, he was like, can I reach her? Trying to get to her level, to get to Arata's level, so on and so forth. She's thinking the same thing about Arata now. The difference is, she's thinking about it, for the moment, platonically, whereas Taichi was thinking about it romantically. So that's your main differences between those two. And Arata's just oblivious. Arata's like, I'm just here hanging out with you guys. What's up? The thing that's frustrating is she's like, I want to know. And I know it's metaphorical. I know she's like, can I reach him? Like, can I reach him in Karuta to the level that he's at? I know it's metaphorical, but at the same time, I'm like, grab his damn hand. Like, just, y'all, they're in high school. I need to give them a little bit more slack, because I was probably the same way in high school. But anyway, Nishida is interesting in this episode, because he kind of answers his own question. He's like, why? He's like, I'm not as crazy about Karuta the way that Ayase is, and I prefer to avoid playing strong players and take all the easy wins I can get. He's like, but, why am I still losing? And I'm like, well, the reason you're still losing is the exact thing you just told us. You're not challenging yourself. You prefer to only play easy matches. That's not going to make you stronger. It just won't in the long run. Because your opponents are facing stronger opponents. Easy. You don't care about it as much as the others. That's why they're beating you. You have to care more about it. And you have to have a purpose and a drive. Chihaya's drive, get her team to win nationals. And they did it. That drive helped them succeed. her drive to become queen. Right now, it's interesting because her drive to become queen is kind of like moved down a couple pegs on the ladder. Right now, she just wants to face Arata. That's her goal, is to face Arata. It's not going to happen, but that's her goal. So that's what's driving her to keep moving forward, right? Whereas Nishida doesn't really have that drive. Nishida is interesting as a character because his whole thing is, I've played Karuta since I was little. I have all this experience. I've done all these things. Why am I not seeing results? And the answers are right in front of him. And he just hasn't accepted those. He hasn't fully grasped those reasons and implemented them into his drive. Arata has a drive. Arata's on a mission. He is on a mission to go to this Tokyo school because he wants to play Karuta near Chihaya and Taichi, much to Taichi's chagrin. He has a purpose. He has a plot afoot. And he's like, I just have to go back to being crazy about Karuta. And you can't just make yourself do that. You have to have a reason. Okay, so we need to go back. I want to check with the Empress here. We go back to her. And she says, Kamino and Oe-san have won their first round matches. Good. So we know right now that in round 2 is Oe as well as Kamino. We know that they are there. They're doing all right. And then also Scuba won with a bye. So somebody didn't show up. Somebody didn't show up. Okay, so Scuba made it to the next round because somebody didn't show up. And so a bye is when you just buy in. Somebody didn't make the round. And then she finds out that, okay, Hanano won as well. So, okay, everybody else has won their first rounds and made it to the next one. No mention of Taichi whatsoever. So either one of two things are going to happen from this. Either Taichi's going to have lost and is miserable about it, or Taichi's going to sweep everything and win the B rank. I'm hoping it's the latter. I also love that she waits until the card is down and then she comes in. So the parents here. He's like, if I win the high school tournament, I have a favor. I want you to let me attend a university in Tokyo. So, let's talk about that for real quick. The parents are terrified of that because his parents be poor. So, oh my God. They're like, most scholarship offers come from private schools. All right. So most scholarships, we're going to put that on here. Most scholarships come from private schools, which I can relate to. In competitive wise, a lot of private schools offer the better scholarships. It would take 4 million yen in the first year to cover registration, living expenses, and tuition. So if we do 4 million yen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, buddy. What? Oh, I was looking at 40 million yen. Never mind. Okay. Yeah. They're looking at, in the first year alone, $26,000. I feel you. I feel your pain. That's pretty average for U.S. universities. That's average for public universities in the U.S., which is insane. If you all think that's crazy, that's insane for public universities. Go to community college first. Just saying. But anyway, that's my PSA for the day. But they're like, it would cost 26 grand a year. His family's poor. They ain't got money. So they're like, the first year alone would be $26,000. That's crazy. You're smart enough to attend a local public university. They're like, go state school. Just go public and you can save all this money. You don't have to go to Tokyo. They're like, lose so you don't have to go. And the thing is, the parents, they love Arata and they see his talent. They know he's good. That's why they're praying that he loses so that he doesn't have to go to that school. My question was, is it easier to get accepted to a Tokyo university from a Tokyo high school? That is, does your high school affect your uni? There's a couple things on here. My question was, I don't know. Here was my question, because, my theory in all of this, just to get back to this, my theory is, what if Arata has gauged from facing Nishida and watching Chihaya play that he's like, man, you guys are having a lot of fun. You all are really competitive and good. And when Nishida's like, well, everybody plays even more hard than me. And Arata's like, oh, wow, I want to play with these people. Would Arata try to convince his family to let him attend his 3rd year at Chihaya's school? That would be insane. They would be a powerhouse. They would probably win nationals again next year if Arata was on their team. That would be wild. But my theory is if he doesn't win against Shinobu or whatever, and he's like, okay, fam, I know that me coming from an outside school to Tokyo is going to be hard, but what if I go to Tokyo and play at their high school my 3rd year? Would that help me get access to easier scholarships to transition from a Tokyo high school to Tokyo University? Because Arata has said he doesn't care which one. He's like, I don't care which one, just whichever. I don't know. That would be Taichi's nightmare. That would be Taichi's absolute nightmare, would be Arata playing on his team. I think it would work out for Taichi in the end, though. I'm going to explain that in a second. I think it would work out for Taichi in the end because Taichi has romantic interest in Chihaya. I don't know if Arata does. And I think Arata and Chihaya might end up becoming just friends if he came to the school. And maybe that would help out Taichi in the end. But the idea of Arata playing at their school, I think, would make both Nishida and Taichi freak out. I think they would both freak out. But I'm like, you shouldn't be, because having the best player in the league on your team is going to make you better. So why would you be freaked out in the long run? But anyway, I don't know if that'll happen or not. And so then we had Nishida having this conversation with his master about if you can master the basics, you can do it. Make assumption about the places where the cards will be read earlier. Like, he gives him a clear way to take control of the match. It's just for the reasons we already said earlier, Nishida's not able to match up with Arata. And Arata is just so amazed. He's like, Arata gets even more like fired up when he's facing a tough opponent. And they're like, well, couldn't you wait until next year when you're a 3rd year to face an high school tournament? He's like, if I get into a school early by recommendation, it will be easier for me to focus. So his idea is that if he can get a scholarship ahead of time, if a school will give him a scholarship before his 3rd year begins, then his 3rd year will just be about grades and Karuta and getting ready and preparing for that. Okay. I'm interested to see where this is going to go with Arata. And Nishida asks why he's so much better. And he's like, I practiced the whole time. I'm like, but this, again, what he says here, he's like, if I had injured my favorite hand, I would forfeit. That's why. You can practice all day long, but if you don't have the drive and the passion for it, it's not going to work. Nope. He's like, yeah. He's like, but I'm here. Scuba kept appealing for the chance to play. He's like, what did I do? It's not what Nishida did, it's what he didn't do. That's the thing. Right? He's like, I could at least refuse to give up. I mean, that's a start. But, and I like that Arata's so sweet. Like, it drives me crazy that Taichi views him as an enemy because Arata doesn't view Taichi as an enemy. He doesn't at all. Arata's so nice. He's just like, Arata is the nicest antagonistic force of this series. He's so kind. And he's just like, is everybody on your team this passionate? And he's like, yes. I don't play nearly as hard as the other members. Mashima, Destomu, Kana, Ayase, the first years. And Arata is just floored by this. He's like, oh my God. He's like Chihaya. He's like, I want to play this team. I want to practice with them. That would be amazing. It would also be kind of cool if maybe Arata isn't like going to join their high school, but what if he contacted Chihaya since they have numbers now? And he's like, hey, I want to practice with your team. I think that'd be fun. And Chihaya, of course, would be like, oh my God, yes. And Taichi would slowly tie rocks to his ankles as he like walked closer to the river. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, and he's like, don't forget how he swung from his lower left to his upper right. Yeah, Nishida ain't gonna forget that anytime soon. He's like, that's why I hate strong players. They make me want to work harder. You just gotta work harder, Nishida, and you can do it. We know you can. Okay. I love that she slumps down. I love what this girl does here. She's just like, tentatively like, hey, are you okay? And then she like pops up. Amazing. Love it. So yeah, she's like, all right, one round closer to one round closer. All right, so the ones that have made it into the top 8 are, we're just going to put them in order. We have Arata. Arata remains. We have, I don't know who's going to face who. Let's put Ness on there, and let's put Megumu. Here's the thing. You would think it would make sense and be fair if they faced Makoto. Also, if Arata faced the guy that was pervy, that'd be really funny. But, Arrow, what's his name? And then, the twin, Excavator Man. I think there's a good chance, though, that 2 of the Fujisaki people could play each other. That does seem like, whenever I competed in speech, if we had multiples of us make it to the semifinal or the quarterfinal, they would probably put you in a round together because it is only fair that you knock each other out a little bit so that it's spread apart. Doesn't always happen that way, but I was in a semifinal once and there was like 4 of us in one round, 4 another, and there were 4 of us from my school that made it to the semifinal. Got it. And then it was 2 and 2 with the other schools. So that's what you had to do. But yeah, interesting. And then when they put the card down with Ayase, she won by 2 cards and then she won by 7 against Shinobu, who won by 25 and then won by 23. I love Shinobu's been sitting behind her the whole time with the damn thermos of her green tea. Like the whole time. I love that. And just waiting. And this is my favorite part, I think, of the whole damn episode. Because he watches her, she takes the bandage off. Yep. Because she's like, look, I want to face Arata. And I was saving my right hand to play with it until I faced Arata. But I'm not going to treat Shinobu like she's not tough shit. She's like, I know Shinobu's going to be hard, and I know Shinobu is going to be a match. So she's like, I'm going to make sure that I give my all to face Shinobu on the chance that I could make it to the semifinal to face Arata. It's that conviction and that faith. Like, we talked in episode 19 about Taichi having faith. That's literally with Chihaya here. Does Chihaya hope that she can face Arata? Well, yes. Does she have faith that she can face Arata? She's putting her faith in being able to beat Shinobu so she can make it to the top 4. She can make it to the top 4 and still not face Arata. She could make it to the top 4 and be put against the other person. And then have to rely upon getting to the final to face him. But I also like that about Chihaya in this moment. She's not thinking about the future. She's just thinking about now. And she's like, I know now if I don't face Shinobu at full strength, it's not going to work. So, I'm really glad that we're having these moments of Chihaya and Arata together on screen because I've been waiting legit 45 episodes for it to happen. I'm a little disappointed that there's not more communication between them, especially but I'm easier to forgive it because 1, Arata has no clue about the pining of either of these other 2 players. He has no idea. And 2, because they are at a match. And Chihaya, I do think it works for her character that she doesn't want to engage Arata until she faces him in battle. So, Taichi's just lucky she's focused. Otherwise, he would be having nightmares by now, so maybe he is. We don't know. Anyway, I think Taichi's going to be fine. I think he's going to win the Class B ranks. I think he's going to be fine, but we'll see. So, anyway, I really enjoyed this episode. This was such a good episode to talk about. I honestly can't believe I talked over an hour about this episode. Crazy, but so worth it. But anyway, if you're still listening, please give a like to my video down below. Please comment and let me know what you thought about the episode. It helps engagement on my channel, and that's important to me. And also, I'm excited to mainly hear your thoughts about the episode down below. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more reactions. Bye.